Y'all, it is cruising the coast time. That means I gotta get something else done in a Suburban before we go ride out there and take pictures of everyone else's nice stuff. Let's get this thing dropped another 3 or 4 inches. So we're back under the Burb. Had a CV boot go and coated everything with a nice film of grease. On both sides, there's brand new CV axles that I put in there. I guess the boots just weren't up to par. Got another set that don't leak. I'm gonna throw them in there, but while I'm at it, I'm going to take these spindles, just like we did on Master P's truck. And what we're doing is moving the bearing location from the center up 2 inches. So this is going to go and replace my factory behind this that you can't see. We're gonna go ahead and swap the wheel bearings over, the brakes over on these new drop spindles, and have to readjust the torsion bars because the back we're doing an axle flip, getting rid of the drop I put in the rear, which was just a shackle drop, but the shackles, they're like a foot long and it makes the leaf spring arch way, way up high. And it really gets into the gas filling nozzle and the AC lines on the passenger side. So we're going to drop the spring back down where it goes, take the axle and put it on top of the spring, and that'll give me about 7 inches of drop in the rear. I'm trying to set the tires right on the fenders, giving that awesome tough street look. Let's do this. So what I'm gonna do here is take off this speed sensor for the front ABS. It's a 5mm, and then I'm going to swap the brake speed sensor and my front wheel bearing hub over to the new drop spindle. And that's gonna create this, instead of being here, up here, without messing with any of the suspension geometry, because it is on torsion bars. And they're adjustable somewhat. You can give them more or less by tightening or loosening the boat, or changing the keys if you want more drop out of them. I think all I'm gonna need is just an extra 2 inches to get that tire right above this fender well up here. Wiggle. And it just comes right out. And then once you take off the bolts for the wheel bearing, dust shield and the bearing all comes off as one piece. I already loosened my nut for the CV shaft, front wheel drive section, and then we can get to these bolts, which I believe are 15. This is the part you never get to see. I got to take off these 4 bolts. There's one up here that the socket's already on, one below it, and the 2 on the other side. Manual impact. There we go. Remember, the dust shield goes forward because the brakes go to the back. Now we're going to bust the bolts off for the upper and lower. And you can see this square is kind of centered. My next square is lifted 2 inches up. The reason I'm doing the front first is so I don't get accused of being a squatted truck dude. This is on a torsion bar. It's all the way loose, hanging down. The shock looks like it's holding it. The sway bar is holding the other side up. There's no spring in here. So when this comes apart, it should just stay. Bottom of 21, hold the top of the 10 if it's spinning on you. Bracket for the brake line. That was easy. Well, there you go. That's that. Like that. 2 hands, BFH. Easy enough. So y'all can see the difference. Like I said, 2-inch drop, stock. It all mounts in the same place. That's got a little bit of raise on it compared to the stock one, which goes all the way up. But if you mount them dead even across, you can see we're definitely lifting that wheel bearing up, which will be letting the truck down. Put it on. So here we are. It's a Sunday of cruising the coast, and I'm out here taking my truck apart. So I refuse to go ahead and put a new drop spindle on without changing the rubber parts that go over the ball joints. Now I'm not changing the ball joints because they're still good. I mean, there's no slack. They're still kind of stiff. It's a 05 and they're original as far as I know. So I'm gonna put a new boot on it. Just cleaned it and make sure there's no dirt or debris. The bottom one doesn't have any holes in it. It's good. And I put a new one on the tie rod end. So this one's good. Now it's time to put the spindle back on. Killed my whole video yesterday going to the auto parts store to get a bunch of these. So back on it. Let's knock the front out and then get to the back, and then low and slow go out to cruising the coast. Got my new ball joint dust cover on my upper and my tie rod end. The lower is good. Let's go ahead and slip this drop spindle on. Catch this bottom ball joint first and push it through the axle. Get the bottom nut started. That way it can just sit there. Upper and slide it into place. All right. Now I can tighten up the lower. It'll hold everything together. And once I get the lower tight, I'll be able to get to the top. When you smash it through, you got just enough room to get it up and started. That will go in. Now I wish I had a little short stubby one. I hate pressing on this rubber boot, but it seems like it's holding up pretty good. Tight and flexible. No joke. Wide open for a joke. No joke. Ball joint back in it. I hate how there's no washer. I'm like a huge stickler for washers. Love me a washer. Now we can slide the bearing back on, tighten up the axle nut, disc, and the caliper. Dust shield. There we go. 4 bolts, and the rest is history. They all look the same. Like anything else, I'm not going super tight on that one first, and I'm going to do it in a crisscross fashion, and then tighten them all up when I'm done. Axle nut. $35mm, kind of big. It said on the box, that's the whole joke with this. It says on the box, 450 foot-pounds of nut busting torque. We stood in that store laughing for 30 minutes just trying to buy this damn impact. That was a good day. Just plastic, just plastic. Just plastic, D. It ain't gotta be all that tight. Just tight enough. All right. Rotor. Sure the line isn't twisted. Back together and a little bit higher. So the GoPro likes to do that a lot. It just turns itself off whenever the battery dies. Instead of telling you that it's getting low and having a warning beep or something, it just turns itself off mid-sentence. So, went and finished what I had to do. I got my brake line clip and the speed sensor clip all hooked together. Got it all back together. I'm gonna go do the other side, put it on the ground and see how bad the alignment's off, then go ahead and tackle the back. All right, so we got the new dust boots on, the upper ball joints, tie rod ends. The lowers were still good. Got the passenger side tied up. You could already see, well, maybe not on camera, but I can see that rotor is already sitting higher in the fender well, even with everything off the truck and it's still sitting in the air. I'm gonna go ahead and wash the front wheels and run them on the balancer before I put them on. I don't think I need to video any of that. Yeah, that's better. That's so much better. The back. Make that look like that. Man, that is a fender well gap. So I got the front drop on. From over here, you can see this huge difference just in how it sits. Pardon my cutlass. It's a workbench at the moment. But from the front to the back tires, man, that rear leaf spring suspension has some travel to it. So I've been pondering over this thing for about, I don't know, an hour now, the easiest way to do this. I can't get this bolt out because of the gas tank. And I'm not about to drop the gas tank to get the bolt out. So I think I'm gonna undo the brakes, take off the drive shaft, fight it till it's done. It's the next day. I'm out here trying to cut the fluff out of these videos, trying to shorten them up a little bit, and just get to the meat of everything I'm doing. So got the brakes off, Got them zip tied up to the frame, have all the lines taken off the axle. There you go. Emergency cables. So pretty much, and the drive shaft taken off. It's just down there. So now I can undo the U-bolts and drop the axle down. Then be able to put the leaf springs on the underside of the axle, giving this truck a drop. And I can take these and I can take these giant drop shackles off the rear and put the standard ones on. And it's going to relocate this up here, but then I'm going to bring the spring back down to give me the correct amount of travel. Axle's coming out next. So these are the stock shackles. These are my drop shackles. And that was where my drop was coming from initially, was that much distance. But since now we're putting the axle on top of the spring, I can go back with the stock to get my spring down. So when I put the axle on top, that's my drop. And it gets that weird angle off of when you use drop shackles. It makes the front diff dip, and it puts all the geometry back right. So let's film this again. These are the blocks that take the place of where the factory purchase went to put the axle on top of the spring. And then down here, I can show you on the other side, the little piece that sticks down is where the plate goes that lines up the underside for the leaf springs. And you always want to put the flanges down so any water will drain. And kind of like on Masterpiece truck, here's my problem. There's the leaf spring, and that's where my exhaust pipe used to come through. So I'm gonna have to figure something out with the modified through the fender exhaust. If that's the worst of my problems, I'll take it. I can do some exhaust work. So I'm gonna get back to bolting this rear axle in on the driver's side and put her in the ground and see what she looks like. Once you go for a ride, move it around a little bit, put it back up or on the ground. Tighten it back up just to make sure. It's the next day. I got it all wrapped up last night, put all the brakes back on it, and it is low. It is awesome, and I love it. When the tire's sitting about right here, maximum, and it won't touch, even though I got the spacers on it, and it's nice and flat with the fender. The tires won't touch the fender wells. That's awesome. Exactly as low as I could go without cutting a whole lot of stuff out. The problem I got now is looking through where the exhaust was, leaf spring is perfectly right in the way. So I'm gonna have to redo the exhaust. Let's get started on getting this tailpipe, and I gotta lose my tip, but we get some exhaust back on this thing so I can head out to cruising tonight to the flamethrowing contest and film that for the 3rd year, which is going to be awesome. So before I can get started on the exhaust, I got to put my spare tire back up so I know where this ends up. Couldn't find a 20-inch spare for a price I was willing to pay, so I got my stock 16, which I painted in like my 1st or 2nd video. Still looks good under there, but I got it wrapped in a 285/75, which is a 32.5, just like my 265/60s on a 20. Let's see what happens if I just snake the exhaust as I had it over the axle. I might not have to cut much. I might be able to clock it on the... See, that's in there. Still fits. It just doesn't come out the hole. It just be under the hole, which is something I never wanted, but still above the flap. This in here. Hey. And my suspension's all the way down. It's only going to go up from there. So I could just patch in this piece, kind of have a half and half, and still get it. I just don't like all the pipe hanging down. That'll work. That's in that baby. I like it. Sorry if this is kind of a rush video. Cruising the Coast started Sunday. It's Sunday to Sunday. Today's Tuesday, and tonight is the burnout contest. No, Tuesdays is the flamethrowing contest. Monday and Wednesday is autocross. Thursday is the burnout contest, and it's just a party all week. I'm trying to get out there, so just kind of short clipping it to get it back going on the road. Got the drop on a Suburban. I put a string line on the front to see if I'm super toe in, because I can kind of see them. They're kind of, you know, if I could straighten them out enough to where I won't chew the tires up too bad. We're gonna roll up to the flamethrowing contest this afternoon. So I have a old 80s Camaro hood I've been cutting pieces of sheet metal off of for years now, and this is the back side of it. The curve matches the Suburban's curve pretty good. I have a radius cut. I'm welding these other little pieces later. I'm really trying to make it to a car show, so instead of going to a car show to gaping hole in the side of the truck, and I can always do body work later, I'm gonna hit this little flat black so it's not too noticeable. We got the drop done on the Burb. We're fixing to roll out to Cruising the Coast 2024, catch the flamethrowing contest. Let's ride.